Jack Welch, one of the CEOs of the decade, was famous for his theory of 20-70-10, where he proposes that 20% of the workforce do most of the work, 70% do their work adequately enough, and 10% are underperformers. In time, the strain put on the performing employee will cause them to reduce output and can cost the company very heavily financially as productivity steadily drops. Welch admits to firing 10% of the lowest performers in his company yearly. Although you can fire 10% of your workforce, you would probably spend more money retraining new candidates with no assurance that they will be better. Maintaining performing employees has always been a challenge in the workforce. It is important for employers to manage and motivate your current group of workers, and luckily for us, Malaysia Productivity Corporation, MPC, is working to help increase the productivity of workers in companies and incentivize them with an ESPO Acknowledgement Certificate. The ESPO, or E-Shared Prosperity Organization's Acknowledgement Certificate, is established in line with the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030, recognized by the Ministry of International Trade and Industry (MITI), Ministry of Human Resources (MOHR), and in this video will serve as a training module for you to understand further about ESPO. There will be several sections that we'll cover in this video to help you understand the processes and elements when you start your application for the ESPO Acknowledgement Certificate for the service sector. In this video, we aim to stimulate and expose companies to the existence of ESPO. Before we go through the training module, how about we dive further to understand the platform? What exactly is ESPO? E-Shared Prosperity Organization, or ESPO, is an online platform that issues an electronic acknowledgement certificate to companies or organizations that have successfully implemented Productivity-Linked Wage System, PLWS. It is a flexible wage system that is based on gain sharing and mutual wealth creation between employer and employee. The platform was launched on the 17th of December 2020 by Yang Berbahagia Dato Sri Nur Azman Ayub, Deputy Secretary General from the Ministry of International Trade and Industry (MITI). As productivity is one of the main factors affecting a company's economic growth and living standards of its people, improving productivity is a strategic means to enhance economic competitiveness. Now that you know what ESPO is all about, how do you, as an acknowledged organization, benefit from this acknowledgement certificate? There are three types of benefits you can get with ESPO: direct benefits, indirect benefits, and future benefits. The direct benefits of ESPO are the flexibility in the compensation system of a company. This means employers can compensate productive workers accordingly to motivate and reward them for their efficiency and productivity. Studies indicate that companies that implement PLWS show an increase of 15% in productivity, 10% in profitability, and 10% in worker wages. It also increases workers' engagement in a certain project, since the workers' wage capacity is tied to their productivity. Indirectly, an ESPO acknowledged company enhances its business visibility, competitiveness, and standing in the marketplace. This identity will give the company an added point for the employee as it incentivizes them and ultimately enhances harmonious industrial relations. In terms of future benefits, as the country moves towards ESPO certification, companies that are early adopters of this certification will be seen as leaders and forerunners, paving the way for a more dynamic wage system where the distribution of profit is concerned. In time, it also would be a criteria for awards and incentives handed by the government bodies. So now we've been briefed on what ESPO is and its many benefits. Let's move on to the components that make a company eligible to receive the ESPO Acknowledgement Certification. ESPO Acknowledgement Certification is judged based on 3 components. Bonus component, making up of 200 marks, productivity and performance incentives component, 600 marks, and lastly, skills incentives component, making up 200 marks. With a total score of 1,000, 20 questions will cover 20 vital elements in this acknowledgement certification. All these elements are equally important and can easily be used in the service industry to stimulate wealth creation and for more efficient wealth sharing. The questions in the evaluation will be simple yes or no questions for each component. Now it's time for the first question of the bonus component. Does your company implement a profitability bonus? This question is to measure if your company sets aside a predetermined amount as a bonus on top of basic salary. This, of course, depends on whether the company reaches its profit goals of the year. For example, company Matahari generates 3 million ringgit in profit for the year and allocates 10% or 300,000 ringgit bonus to pay out to its employee. Here we have an example of 2 bonus models that are commonly used by companies. In Table 1.1, we see a profit after tax model, where employees are eligible for 2 months basic salary if the company reaches 3 million ringgit in profit after tax. And in Table 1.2, we see another model used by another company where the profit before tax bonus reaches 8 million ringgit and the employees are then eligible for an annual bonus of 1,000 ringgit. The role of bonuses is to strengthen employees' loyalty, productivity, and improve their hiring and retention potential as employees feel more fairly compensated for their hard work. Element 2 is to evaluate whether the organization implements a company performance bonus, an additional compensation given to an employee or department for achieving specific goals or targets. Table 2.1 shows that if the return on investment achieved is more than 100%, then the employees are rewarded with 1 month of their basic salary as the year's bonus. Table 2.2 shows another model where the incentives are paid based on business plan. If the company achieved the business plan target above 140%, employees will be rewarded with 2 months bonus. This will help employees feel more engaged, knowing that their work is important and holds meaning to the company. Question 3 is regarding a company's implementation of employee performance bonus. This is a bonus that is specific to an individual performance rating for that year. For example, if the employee achieved excellent performance, he or she will get a bonus specific to that criteria. Based on Table 3.1, an employee will not be eligible for a performance bonus if the productivity level for that cycle is below 40%. In Table 3.2, we see that an employee's performance rating is above the target. Then they will be awarded up to 2.25 times their basic salary. The next element, element 4, is a combination of both company profitability and employee performance. This type of bonus combines company profitability and employee performance to provide additional compensation. So if the company achieves a certain profit and the employees' performance are also above average, then they're entitled to an additional bonus. An example is shown here in Table 4.1. If the average employee's performance is at 80 to 90% and the company gets a post-tax profit of 10 million ringgit, therefore, the employee is eligible for a 1-month bonus. The bonus payments will vary according to profitability and employee performance. In Table 4.2, you can see that it is based on an individual employee performance rating and pre-tax profit. So if a company's revenue is at 12 million ringgit and the employee's performance rating is above 80, that employee can be rewarded a 2.1 month bonus. This element is to measure if your company implements a bonus based on company performance and employee performance. Generally, company performance bonuses are awarded for the achievement of the business plan, and employee bonus amounts may vary depending on the individual performance. Table 5.1 and 5.2 shows two types of company performance, which are company business plan performance and company output performance. If the company business plan can reach 85% to 100% and the employee score is 70% to 80%, then the employee will get a 1 month bonus. Table 5.2 shows if a company, which is basically a car service company, achieved its service target of 6,481 to 8,640 cars per year and employee performance is rated at very good, then he or she is entitled to a 1.6 month bonus. And for the final element of the bonus component, does your company implement a share option? Generally, a share option is given to employees to buy shares in the company at a discounted price, which is less than the market value. In Table 6.1, we see a call option available for staff. For example, if the value of a stock price shows 25 ringgit, the call option for the employees will be 3 ringgit. Employees normally welcome share schemes because it allows them to feel a part of the company by owning a little piece of it. In some instances, it allows them to tax relief efficiently too. Now that we have covered the bonus incentives component, let's move into the next component, productivity or performance incentives. There are 11 elements or questions that you will need to self-evaluate in this section. The first question of the component deals with companies providing salary increment based on employee performances. Salary increments payment are determined through achievements of merit points, performance level, percentage-based increment, and performance increments. This table indicates the employee performance rating, and if an employee performance score is between 65 to 80%, he or she is entitled to 5% of the incentive. Additionally, Table 7.2 shows that if the merit points fall under good, then the base increment will be 2% with a performance increment of 6%. An employee that has an excellent performance record will be eligible to get annual incentives in monetary and non-monetary forms. Examples of monetary incentives include profit sharing, project bonuses, and schedule bonuses. Non-monetary incentives include things like healthcare benefits, life insurance, and other types of privileges that can be supported by the company. In Table 8.1, we see productivity incentives given to employees based on how good they do within their job grade. So if Mr. Howe works as a machine operator in grade 4 and achieves an excellent rating, he would then be awarded 33 ringgit monthly. In Table 8.2, we see Mr. Howe is evaluated based on productivity achievement indices, where his performance gets a grade of good, which entitles him to 21 to 25% incentive from his basic wage. Question 9 of the component asks if your company provides incentives based on the service charge collected. Businesses are normally imposed with service charge on goods or services. You see this commonly in the hospitality industry, with the rate usually being 10%, though the amount could differ from place to place. The money collected is accumulated and pooled into a fund, which is then distributed to the workers based on their merit. The 10% charge must be stipulated in the collective agreement between employers and employees before businesses can impose it. According to the distribution of service charge collection, we see here if Mr. Ali achieved merit points of 78 and falls under the category of good, he will be eligible to 2 points, which contribute to a total of 400 ringgit additional incentive to his basic salary. Table 9.2 shows how Mr. Ali's wage is calculated for that particular month. Since Mr. Ali's basic salary is 1,200 ringgit and he is awarded an additional 400 ringgit from the 2 points he earned, he'll receive a total of 1,600 ringgit by the end of the month. Question 10 asks if your company provides incentives based on reduction in wastage. Employee or quality improvement teams receive incentives based on reduction in wastage, which depend on the category of workers. Table 10.1 shows 7 types of wastage that happens in a service company, and the department managed to find ways to reduce the A4 paper usage. Many rims of the A4 paper were used for unnecessary processing, like entering information into multiple forms, databases, files, and reports with the same information. Through the department's efforts, the members managed to reduce the redundant or unnecessary processing, which leads to a reduction of cost in purchasing A4 rims. The company could then reward 100 ringgit to each member of the department. Let's move to element 11. Does your company provide incentives based on cost and time saving? This is when a company rewards employees with monetary incentives for cost or time saved on a project. Table 11.1 shows the percentage of cost saving by the quality improvement team members by reducing the usage of plastic hand gloves alone. The record shows that they were able to chart savings as much as 19% on a project. Because of this cost-saving recommendation, the company rewards the team members with 250 ringgit. Table 11.2, on the other hand, shows how incentives are given according to time saving. Project BCD was completed earlier than the stipulated deadline. Team members who are involved receive an incentive of 200 ringgit based on the record of 8% to 11% total time saving for the project. Element 12 is to evaluate if your company provides incentives based on personal qualities of a worker. Do you reward an employee who performs commendably in criteria such as attendance, absenteeism, punctuality, and discipline? Table 12.1 refers to incentives based on criteria achieved. For example, if an employee achieves 5 criteria, he or she will receive 100 ringgit as an incentive. Table 12.3 refers to incentives based on personal quality. This shows how the incentives will be distributed based on the number of personal criteria achieved. Does your company provide productivity incentive scheme? This is when a certain amount of incentive is paid if the company achieves a service target set at the company level. This shows that upon achievement of a target set at the company level, the employees can then be rewarded based on quality output. So if an employee reaches the range of 93 to 95%, he or she will be entitled to a one-off payment of 100 ringgit. Table 13.2 shows how an employee can be paid 200 ringgit monthly if he or she can achieve a sales volume within the 7,001 to 8,000 range. The next element will be to measure if your company provides a performance incentive allowance. This is when an employee has reached the maximum on their salary scale and has performed commendably during the review period. He or she will then be eligible for a monthly allowance, which won't be attached to their basic salary. Table 14.1 shows that if an employee performance rating is more than 85%, he or she will receive 60 ringgit monthly. Table 14.2 shows car service maintenance efficiency per month. If the mechanics can service 916 to 931 cars per month, based on 12 bays with 12 mechanics, then each of them will receive 250 ringgit in incentives monthly. Question 15 is an element that covers sales achievement incentives. This is paid to an individual or team on hitting a sales target. A sales incentive plan is a great way to motivate and reward personal or team-based sales performance. Table 15.1 shows that if the sales value achieved the target of more than 5,000 ringgit, the sales representative will then be rewarded 70 ringgit. Table 15.2 shows how the incentives are paid according to the sales quantity. If a sales representative achieves more than 5,000 ringgit, he or she will then be rewarded with 70 ringgit as a sales incentive. Does your company provide a coaching allowance? This is where an employee can be paid to conduct internal training or coaching for their fellow company staff, depending on the training topic and feedback from internal staff. Here we see in company Aruba, the internal staff conducted an in-house training program on the usage of leave application to his supporting staff. He or she is then entitled to an allowance of 30 ringgit per hour spent on training. The last element under the productivity or performance incentives component is to evaluate if your company provides other non-financial incentives. These are acknowledgements of an employee's excellence and loyalty and makes them feel appreciated by the company. Non-financial incentives examples can be an annual family day, awards for best employee, service awards for years served in the company, and even trip incentives. All these can help with employer-employee relations, which ultimately improve productivity and performance, yielding potential positive business results. And lastly, we've reached the skills incentive component, which consists of 3 questions that cover 3 elements. Question 18 is about incentives based on an employee's ability to implement multi-skills. Multi-skilled is a term most commonly used to refer to a single employee who performs different skills in more than one area or field with the knowledge, experience, or specialized training. In Table 18.1, we can see that if a worker can be multi-skilled, he may handle 3 machines at one time, and the company can expand a monthly allowance of 100 ringgit to help retain his services and incentivize the application of his skill. Table 18.2 shows Mr. Lee's job scope is to operate 3 types of banner printing machines of different sizes, and he has also been trained to fix road signboards and billboards. The company may reward him 200 ringgit monthly for his 2 multi-skill advantage. The focus of element 19 is to measure if the company provides incentives based on multitasking capability. This is an employee's ability to manage multiple responsibilities while keeping track of others and to handle more than one task at a given moment. In Table 19.1, we see if an employee is a logistics clerk that also manages and handles the import and export logistics documentation, he will receive a monthly incentive of 120 ringgit for his contributions. Table 19.2 shows that when an operations clerk can do the task of a shipping clerk, then he or she is entitled to a monthly incentive of 150 ringgit. And for the final question of the component, element 20 questions if your company provides incentives based on certified skills. The certification is to show that the employee has acquired specific formal training for the skills and knowledge to apply in the workforce. This credential is to ensure that he or she is well equipped for an occupation, technology, or industry practice. The easiest example of this element is a license to become a truck driver. As a driver gains a competency license from E1 to E, which allows that driver to drive trucks in all classes. Then his monthly incentives can be raised from 150 ringgit to 200 ringgit monthly. This gains the loyalty of the worker and helps the company to retain its skilled workers longer. With that last question, we conclude our training modules for ESPO Acknowledgement Certificate for the service sector. With the guidance of this video, the Malaysia Productivity Corporation hopes to welcome more and more businesses that implement productivity-linked wage systems to be acknowledged on the platform. This is an effort by the government to bring us closer to realizing the shared prosperity vision of 2030 with the noble objective to provide a decent standard of living to all Malaysians by the year 2030. What are you waiting for? Log on to www.mpc.gov.my/ESPO today to get acknowledged.